Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the war continues in the Middle East as more than 20 Americans have now died in the Israeli conflict with Hamas. Plus, an investigation is underway after a Southern Kentucky hospital goes on lockdown.
Plus, we are tracking above average temperatures on Thursday and Friday. The details on possible 80s coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. The war rages on in the Middle East. At least 22 American citizens have died in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. At least 2,300 lives have already been lost from the conflict altogether. Militants in Gaza have been holding about 150 people hostage from Israel. Some of those are believed to be Americans. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he plans to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during a trip to Israel. Dozens of demonstrators held a protest in front of the United States Embassy building in the capital of Indonesia earlier today. In their statement, the demonstrators pressured the U.S. government to cease its military aid to Israel and condemn the attacks on the Palestinian people, which also resulted in the destruction of an Indonesian hospital in the Gaza Strip. Violent and graphic images from the war in Israel have infiltrated online platforms and social media. Mental health experts are worried that traumatic events like this can cause increased stress and anxiety, especially in children. In today's era of social media, it's nearly impossible to shield youth from the content. Dr. Catherine Stone is a psychologist and says parents should give children time and space to process their emotions.
Helping to empower them that there are things that they can do to make people here feel better. And maybe it's doing a yard sale or a lemonade stand and the money goes towards a nonprofit. I know on my street we have a neighbor who grew up in Israel, so it's checking in with that neighbor or taking flowers or taking food or saying we're thinking of you.
For small children who have not been exposed to the pictures and video or are not sure what is going on, there is no need to worry them.
Well, after sunshine on Tuesday, we are tracking some cloudy conditions across the mountains on Wednesday. Those temperatures, though, are comfortable, up to 63 degrees right now over at Buffalo Mountain. Most of us in the middle to upper 60s, so we are below average once again. We should be in the lower 70s, up to 62 for Clintwood, also Pikeville, down to 59 for Wise, 64 in Manchester, also London, and 66 for Irvin, Somerset, also Monticello at this hour. So we are not too bad out there. Up on the radar, we are dry, but clouds do continue across the region, and this is all thanks to a warm front. As we zoom out, you can see that warm front over portions of Tennessee, also western Kentucky. And this will continue to push off to the north. Now, once this passes, some warmer, also more muggy air is on the way by Thursday, also into your Friday. That's the big story. As we close out the work week, some above average air is on the way. We top out in the upper 70s and lower 80s on Thursday, also Friday. And then that next rain chance by this weekend as a cold front begins to work across the mountains. So rain chances are possible on Saturday, also into your Sunday, as some gloomy, chilly, soggy, and breezy weather is on the way by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So the forecast looking rather gross by early next week. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. Earlier today, the GOP voted to make Louisiana Representative Steve Scalise their nominee for Speaker of the House. Scalise came out on top in the battle against Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, 113 votes to 99. But to win the Speaker's gavel, a candidate needs support from a majority of the House members present, meaning the eventual Speaker would need 217 votes. Unclear when that vote is going to take place, but it's not expected today. President Biden unveiled new actions to crack down on junk fees during an event at the White House today. The Federal Trade Commission unveiled a proposed rule that would require businesses to disclose mandatory fees up front. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau also took steps to prohibit banks and credit unions from charging consumers who want to check account balances. Chicago community members gathered last night to discuss a local field house possibly being used as a migrant shelter. The location at the center of the talks is Amazon Park in Galewood. The plan to use the field house as a shelter was put on hold Monday after the demonstration. However, frustrated community members said park supervisors were told to turn their keys in and youth athletes were asked to leave mid-practice.
I know the mayor spoke with the park district this evening. I don't know what that conversation entailed. I was not on the line with him at the time. He did say, I will call you back, and I assumed that he called the park district as well as his chief of staff.
Many in the area vowed to stay overnight to see if migrants were being moved in the field house. Police are trying to get to the bottom of a possible threat at a Southern Kentucky hospital. A patient reported seeing a man with a gun at London St. Joseph Healthcare. Police say the source of the credible threat was not found Tuesday night. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on what led to the lockdown and the large police response.
Detectives from London Police are still looking into this, trying to review everything that took place Tuesday night. But it all began around 8:30 on Tuesday night when a patient reported seeing a very disturbing and scary sight.
We received a complaint from the London Dispatch Center in reference to a patient in the hospital allegedly stating that an unknown person came into his room with a gun.
London Police, along with deputies from the Laurel County Sheriff's Office and State Police, flooded the hospital and it was placed on lockdown.
So the patient's room is locked. They won't allow anybody in or out of the hospital, just trying to make it as safe as possible.
Police say they could not find any credible threat at the hospital, and technical difficulties with the video surveillance system prevented them from finding footage of a subject inside the facility with a gun.
We don't. At this point, the investigation is in the preliminary stages, and we're going to continue to investigate to the fullest and try to figure this out to make sure that people feel safe here in London.
St. Joseph Healthcare released a statement this morning which said in part that they want to thank all the police and law enforcement for their work in searching the facilities, stating that no credible threat was found. They also state that the safety and well-being of the patients and the caregivers is their top priority. In Laurel County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Phil, thank you. London police remained at the scene until about 11 o'clock last night, and the hospital appeared to have normal operations today.